Right, now I've got the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Tushikane. Dr. Tushikane is director of the cath lab in Toehashi Heart Hospital in Japan. He's well known to most of us. He's visited many of our institutions to do cases, and I think anyone who's worked with him has been amazed by his skill. He does over 200 CTOs a year, and last time I talked to him, I think it was about a 98% success rate. He's a course director at CCT, the Kobe course, and also the original CTO club in Japan, which was just a couple of weeks ago. So with great pleasure, he's going to talk to us about the Antegrade approach, the current techniques and future.
Okay, thank you, Scott, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for invitation again to the very nice CTO Club Meeting. So my first topic is the Antegrade approach, and I will talk about the current situation and future decision. And so now, definitely we are in a retrograde approach here in the CTO PCI. However, still I believe Antegrade approach is should be as a first attempt. And if Antegrade approach failed, we can move to retrograde approach. Or you meet very complex CTO regions which cannot be opened up with Antegrade approach only. And also you can see a very good collateral channel for retrograde approach. In those situations, sometimes you can attack first with a retrograde approach. However, as already Dr. Low mentioned, this is the data from our Toyohashi Heart Center, and last year, and we only use a 20% of case with a retrograde approach, and still around the 60% of case we do a single wire manipulation. So single wire manipulation is still most important in the Antegrade approach. And now we always start with attack the CTO in the Antegrade manner with a small chip slippery wire like field XT. Like a sliding technique into the microchannel. So historically, there is an invisible microchannel, very, very small channel, so we cannot get in with a 14 wire. Only a small chip wire can be allowed to be go in. And the field XT has a very small chip, and you can make a very, very short chip on the field XT. So this is a case example, mid-LED CTO region. We cannot any visible or channel. However, field XT supported by over-the-wire negotiates CTO region. This is also distal RC occlusion. You can see some Antegrade flow in the halfway. However, the other halfway there is no visible channel. However, field XT could negotiate the region supported by over-the-wire balloon. But basically, field XT is a very fragile wire, so we need better support for field XT wire like over-the-wire balloon, and now we frequently use a Corsair catheter. So maybe you should advance a support catheter for to CTO, and then even when any visible visible channel cannot be seen, you may attack the occlusion by a small chip slippery wire. Of course, it cannot be advanced into the CTO. Please change the wire to a Miracle 3 something. And if it can be advanced, you may continue the wiring supported by catheter. And because field XT is basically a less traumatic wire. And this is another case example, proximal RCA CTO region here. And we start wiring with field XT under the support of anchoring and the microcatheter. And the field XT could be easily advanced towards the distal lumen. However, finally, it creates subluminal tracking. However, in this situation, field XT never create a big dissection dissect this space. So it's time to use, of course, parallel wiring technique, and I left the field XT there and advance another stick wire to retrieve a true channel. And it was not so difficult in this case, and this is the final result. This is the final result of this case. So, when the field XT wiring creates subintimal tracking or subluminal tracking, quickly move to parallel wiring technique. And in fact, this is my personal result in the last 2 years. And around 30% of case in the Antegrade approach. This is the all Antegrade approach case, and around 30% case I could negotiate the region with field XT only. And also in Toyohashi Center, they also use around 30% of case in the Antegrade approach. So now the spectrum of Antegrade wire a little bit changed previous compared to the previous selection. Now we frequently use a plastic jacket wire like a field XT, FC, pilot something, and as a sliding technique in the Antegrade manner. Of course, it's not always successful, and sometimes it could not be advanced into the CTO. So we have to move to intermediate wire as a drilling technique, and sometimes we need a more stiff wire like Miracle 12 or Conquest family as a drilling or penetration procedure. I will show you some case from the last CCT meeting in January. This is osteoartery occlusion with significant left main bifurcated disease, and in those cases, the region frequently received a good collateral from a separate conus branch, and like this. And this is a chip injection from a conus branch with microcaster. So I started with Antegrade wiring with field XT. After IVAS examination, IVAS confirmation of the entrance of CTO region like this. And but the field XT could not be advanced into the occlusion, so I moved to Ultimate 3. This is a new Miracle 3 wire with hydrophilic coating, so almost similar with a Miracle 3. And fortunately, Ultimate 3 could be advanced. However, you can see support caster, microcaster could not be advanced into the CTO like this. So the almost crossing, however, because of a less backup for penetration into the distal lumen, we have to change the condition. So in those cases, now Corsair caster works very well in the Antegrade approach to make an extra backup because of it has a very tapered soft chip, and this tapered soft chip usually could be can be advanced with Antegrade wire. So now we usually use Corsair and the Antegrade approach as a support caster because it provides equivalent wire maneuverability as a conventional microcaster, and also good crossability of the chip into the occlusion during the wire manipulation. And also, after successful wiring, Corsair easily usually crossed through the entire occlusion. So now we don't need 1 to 5 or 1.5 balloon pre-dilatation balloon. We don't need because of Doppler effect of Corsair caster. And so I changed the microcaster to Corsair, so you can see a Corsair could be advanced into the occlusion, so it provides a better backup for penetration. So after a successful wiring into the diagonal branch, and you can see a Corsair could be advanced through the entire occlusion. So this procedure make some space inside the occlusion. So the next target is a parent vessel to LED. And without any balloon dilatation, we can move to second attack to the parent vessel with ultimate 3-wire, and it was successful. And after that, we don't need a small balloon, just dilatation with 2-5 balloon like this. And this is the final result of this case after mini crush stenting in the left main bifurcation. So now we frequently use a Coronary caster as an Antegrade microcaster. And of course, in each step, if you create a subintimal or subluminal tracking, we should move to a parallel wire